heads of Arab states and representatives of member states in the League of Arab States over the past 2 days, during which they have tackled all issues seeking to enhance joint Arab action, as well as implementing programs, plans, and resolutions that will serve the interest of our Arab nations and the future of our peoples. We have listened yesterday morning during the opening session to the speech of His Highness, the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah Al-Hamad Al-Jabr Al-Sabah, in front of Arab leaders. His speech included holistic visions to foster Arab solidarity, while also detailing concerns and difficulties, and how to rise up to the challenges in order to serve the best interest of Arab peoples and guarantee a better and prosperous future for next generations. You have also listened during the past 2 days to the contributions and speeches of Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses, leaders of Arab states, as well as their representatives. All their speeches focused on the necessity for Arab solidarity, on overcoming all challenges and concerns which might hinder the aspirations and expectations of our Arab peoples. These speeches also reflected a genuine Arab determination to overcome difficulties and rise up to all the challenges within our Arab region. They also proved determination to enhance the path of joint Arab action. I would like to salute the efforts exerted by His Excellency, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Dr. Nabil Elaraby, and the General Secretariat for all the efforts they exerted and for the continuous work in order to draft the agenda and the resolutions of our summit, as well as reviewing the priorities and agreeing on them. Ladies and gentlemen, my country, Kuwait, was honored to host the Kuwait Summit for the first time amidst critical conditions that we are facing in the Arab region. However, in light of these challenges, many Arab countries like Iraq, Egypt, Libya, Lebanon, Tunisia, as well as Yemen, all these countries took firm steps to foster national cohesion as well as enhancing their democratic approaches while moving forward towards the electoral processes soon in order to pave the way for a better future and meeting all the expectations of the peoples in achieving development and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, the Arab world faces many priorities, especially the Syrian crisis and the humanitarian disaster in Syria due to the continuous killings and displacement that the brotherly people of Syria are facing for the 4th year at a row. This affected all types of life, and it also spilled over across the Syrian borders. It is now threatening peace and stability in the entire Arab region. Everyone is now aware of the gravity of this disaster and the need for international and Arab serious efforts in order to reach a political settlement that will put an end to the tragedy and suffering of the Syrian people. You are also aware of the importance of the Palestinian cause, since it is considered as the central and main cause for our Arab nation. In this regard, 2 days ago, a meeting was held with His Excellency the President of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, along with Arab ministers of foreign affairs, and the Palestinian president informed them of the latest developments in the Palestinian cause and the results of his latest visit to the United States of America, during which he reiterated the firm demands to finding a just and lasting solution that will give back the Palestinian people all their violated rights and which will guarantee the establishment of an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital on the borders of the 4th of June 1967 according to international legitimacy and in the framework of the Arab Peace Initiative and Arab Summit resolutions. Ladies and gentlemen, you must have taken note of the Kuwait Declaration issued by the summit. It included issues as well as political, security, economic and development challenges which are affecting urgently the current Arab scene. The declaration also focused on the need to double efforts in order to meet these concerns and providing successful solutions. Arab leaders reiterated in the declaration their support for issues in our Arab region, and they also welcomed any step or resolution that might serve the interest and the future of our people and which will build the institutions and the structures of our countries, while also stressing the importance of eradicating any phenomenon which might hinder that. And terrorism, including terrorism, which was condemned by all monotheistic religions. In fact, terrorism is escalating recently. It is also targeting the international peace and stability. It is threatening the future of our sons. This requires us to double efforts in order to crush it in the nib and to eliminate all its forms, to save the world from its evil. And we would like to reaffirm in this regard that despite all the challenges and difficulties, thanks to the wisdom and the determination of our leaders, the summit adopted resolutions that take into consideration reality and needs. And it also drafted the programs and the plans to implement them. The Kuwait Declaration today is an addition to that vision. It is heralding a start that would be hopefully successful, since the declaration reflected the spirit of brotherhood that characterizes our Arab world from the ocean to the Gulf. Finally, I would like to express the deepest thanks and gratitude to all brotherly Arab nations for their effective participation in ensuring the success of this summit. Thanks to this spirit of solidarity, which is based on a deep belief in our common destiny, and I ask God to preserve our nations and our peoples and to provide us with security, stability, as well as more prosperity and development. May the peace and blessing of God be upon you. Thank you, Your Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. I now give the floor to His Excellency, the Secretary General of League of Arab States, Dr. Nabil Elaraby.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, on the outset, I would like to thank His Excellency, Sheikh Al-Khaled Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, for the wonderful words and appreciated words he uttered regarding the League of Arab States. First, I would like to start by thanking the State of Kuwait for hosting the summit that was so successful. The summit was held at a very critical time, and everybody was wondering whether it will be held or not. It was held, and His Highness the Emir graced us with his patronage of this summit. I believe that Kuwait has chosen the opportune and most conducive theme for this summit, solidarity for a better future. We need to join forces for better future. I will start by talking a bit about the League of Arab States, and I would like to thank at this level all my staff and all my colleagues, starting with my assistant Ambassador Ahmed bin Hilli, and all the those who contributed and exerted efforts day and night in order for this successful meeting. First topic I would like to tackle, and His Excellency the Minister has mentioned. So first topic is to reform and develop the League of Arab States. As you all know, the League of Arab States, and you know that the charter was drafted in 1944. The charter of the League of Arab States was chartered in 1944, and many provisions and many required thoughts for the good functioning of the League of Arab States who are not there. At the time, a committee was created in order to submit a report. It was presided over by Al-Khaled Ibrahimi, and so representatives of the states met for around a year, and they agreed on several points and several issues to reform and develop the League of Arab States. So there was agreement on a new mechanism for a fast-track mechanism, actually, a fast-track mechanism of implementation and execution of humanitarian assistance. This mechanism is of prime importance, and it needs to be set up at the time being. It deals with social, economic, people-related issues. So the mechanism is now covering many issues. We were calling for the amendment of the charter, and now we are looking into that more seriously, and I believe that we are on that way. Also, the Kingdom of Bahrain has proposed a very important idea, that was the setting up of a human rights tribunal, and I believe that it was agreed upon during the last summit. The statute of such a tribunal was already drafted. A few points are still pending and are still to be discussed. I believe that it's almost ready, but a few points are still under consideration. The decision, this summit has actually decided to preliminary give an endorsement or an approval for the statute of the Human Rights Tribunal, the Arab Human Rights Tribunal, and it will be discussed with further details at a later stage. So we will be working on this draft this draft statute, and it will be submitted to the Higher Council in September. In order for this tribunal to be set up, it would be considered as a major stride, as a quantum stride in the Arab world. We have such a tribunal in the African continent, in Asia. This is still lacking, so we hope that that would be a first. Then I would like to tackle a very important issue for all the Arabs, that is Palestine, and I believe that His Excellency has tackled this. President Abbas has met with the ministers, and he has given us a comprehensive and complete picture on what is happening at the time being. And the decision reflects what President Abbas has claimed. Regarding the Syrian issue now, a decision was issued, and I should start by saying what we all wished for, and what all Arab countries have wished for quite some time, and for 6 or 7 months now, the Arab states were working on this. This is an issue that is under consideration, and we're trying the best to resolve it. I've attended several meetings. I've visited Damascus. Now what is of prime importance is to have an immediate ceasefire. Second, release all political detainees and prisoners. Three, conduct and set up the ground for a true reform in the Syrian country on par with other states. Now, going back to the Charter of the League of Arab States, we have no such a thing as sanctions and imposing sanctions, but we have boycotting mechanisms and other punitive mechanisms based on the claim of the opposition members, the opposition forces, and we've seen delegations from the opposition visiting the League of Arab States since 2011, and we were urged to have the dossier sent to the Security Council in order to be dealt with at a higher level, and this is what was done. The dossier was referred to the Security Council in January 2012. Now, what does that mean? The Security Council is the body that is in charge of preserving peace and security around the world, and it is requested to issue a resolution on this level. The other point is I would like to raise at this level is the humanitarian suffering. 6 million migrants, and I believe we are talking here about displaced people, whether internally and externally. 3 million refugees. Maybe the refugees have a better status somewhat compared to migrants, because there are states that are providing assistance, and we have to thank at this level and appreciate the efforts of the Lebanon, Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iraq and Egypt. So they are shouldering a great responsibility at this level, and we were urging the Security Council to take a resolution and at this level, and it did so. It issued Resolution 1139. Now, a report was issued by the Secretary General of the United Nations. I cannot delve into its details, but the situation is still highly complicated now. Also, and before I give you the floor for questions, I shall tackle the issue of the seat of Syria. On March 6, 2013, and after the ministerial meeting in Cairo, we discussed the issue of having the coalition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian people and as the main party to dialogue with, and a decision was issued at this level. I have to say here, have to tell you that I objected against that decision, considering that the coalition is not a government. The independent states are members of the League of Arab States. And the authority, the government, is the party that should have the seat. But then, later on, a government was formed, and during in the last summit, they were represented. They sat on the summit. Officially speaking, the status of the coalition is different, but there is the other technical issues, such as the letters of credentials and the accreditation, and these are being followed up on now. And I will read the resolution for you, the decision that was issued at this level. First, to keep going, to forge ahead with the efforts in order to find a peaceful settlement of this crisis. Second, invite the Syrian National Coalition to assist and take part in the summit on exceptional circumstances, taking into consideration that this participation does not undermine the sovereign decisions of any members to the League of Arab States. So this decision has stricken a certain balance. So no legal liabilities shall become incumbent on the state that headquarters the League, that is Egypt, and the delegation shall attend under special circumstances. Now, another issue I would like to raise that you are all preoccupied with at the time being, that is terrorism. A meeting was held on March 12 in Marrakesh. There was an Arab convention, and the implementation of the latter is the responsibility of competent ministries. Now, the League of Arab States has provided the drive for this convention, and they need to implement it. So, Marrakesh meeting has decided to have a meeting convening competent ministers such as ministers of justice and ministers of interior in order to look into ways of implementing the convention, how to tackle the sources of terrorism and to curb them. I would stop with this note. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States. I will open the floor now for questions and answers. Kindly introduce yourself and the party you represent. Kuwait Television. Hibatullah Abdurrahman. Kuwait TV, English News Department.
League make sure that this declaration can be best implemented. Thank you.
Let me first of all أرد باللغة الإنجليزية. Let me أي لغة حاضر باللغة حاضر أسهل لي يعني.
Arabic.
أرجو أن يكون واضحا.
I hope it is clear enough that all organizations in our modern world, be it regional organizations such as the League of Arab States or the international organizations such as the United Nations, these are not executive bodies. We issue decisions, and that means, like in this summit, Arab states have taken such a decision, but then execution would be incumbent on executive parties, on each state alone. Each state would have to take the necessary measures in order to execute. This is an accusation that we see so often addressed to the League of Arab States or to such similar bodies. We are not to look into ways of implementation. This is not the responsibility of the League. In the name of God, Al-Azab Al-Tayyib Al-Tariq Al-Ahram. Two questions for the two officials. For the first Deputy Prime Minister, what about the reconciliation processes, the reconciliation initiatives between the different disputed Arab states? Did you discuss that? Did you look into new formulas or new ways in order to overcome the Arab differences? That was a main concern and preoccupation in the address of His Highness the Emir yesterday. The question to the Secretary General: it is expected to have a new approach to deal with the Syrian crisis now after the collapse of the Geneva II negotiations. There are claims now to find new ways to settle this issue, like providing arms and arming the opposition, and that was another claim that we heard about yesterday. Truthfully, regarding reconciliation, it is known, and many Arab leaders have spoken of challenges, responsibilities, and the aspirations of the Arab populations to find common grounds for our common Arab issues. Now, during the last three days, and I know that you have noticed the level of frankness and transparency in the different high-ranking officials and our leaders. The leaders have reflected, have pinpointed so clearly these issues, these differences, and what we need to focus on in order to overcome these issues. You have followed that directly. Now, regarding the negotiations that have taken place throughout the last 3 days, starting Monday through today, these were intensive negotiations. His Highness has met with almost all the leaders who have participated in the summit. He was keen on optimizing this opportunity, on making the best out of it. His Highness, in the opening session, have addressed this point so clearly and so straightforwardly, and the speeches later on focused on the need to resolve the issues. The problem, the differences were diagnosed so clearly and so eloquently, but the need to focus on resolving these issues was the main concern for His Highness. Most leaders, I tell you, most leaders are aware now that there should be a focus on creating common grounds that we set off from in order to find solutions. Allow me to answer. Now, expectations regarding a new approach regarding the issue of Syria. As it is known, what was agreed upon in the first Geneva statement, which includes everything, the ceasefire, the start of a transitional period, creating a ruling authority with full competencies and powers in agreement between the government, between the regime and the opposition forces. Based on that, on 22 January of this year, some 50-ish countries have met, and there was an admission of this wide gap between the regime and the opposition forces. Unfortunately, the meetings have led nowhere, and we have listened to the special envoy to Syria, who was representing the United Nations Secretary General at the summit, Mr. Al-Khaled Ibrahimi, and who said to us that the continuous efforts are being deployed were deployed actually in order for results to be, for the negotiations to bear fruits and yield results, but we are still waiting for that. محمد حلمي صوت العرب radio from Cairo. Question to Secretary General Al-Araby regarding the water security in the Arab world, especially as Turkey has been a main player at this level and has undermined the water resources in the region. We're talking here about international rivers that are transnational, that cross many countries. There is a treaty, there is a convention that was adopted by the United Nations in 1997, and I was party to its drafting. Every one of these rivers has its own legal status. Yes, there are differences, and I tell you, the relevant countries, the relevant stakeholders need to convene and discuss in order to find solutions for these issues. Many mistakenly would think that the solution is by resorting to the international judicial system, but unfortunately this requires the approval of both parties. I believe that now we have opponents that are trying to resort back to the international legal system, but I believe steps should be made first in order to find amicable and peaceful resolutions. The first important point or provision of these conventions is not to inflict damage on any of the interests of these states.
شكرا. رافد جبوري من
Rafid Al-Jabouri from BBC. Your Excellency, the Minister, this Arab conflict, polarized conflict. Now, Kuwait and 4 months have tried to mediate, but it wasn't able to avert this deterioration of conflicts and of the situation in terms of relations between the different Arab countries. Now, regarding the issue of agreeing on the national or acknowledging the national Syrian Council, would that mean that next year we will see a representative, an official representative at the summit? I believe that now we are working under the umbrella of this Arab world, the umbrella of the League of Arab States. We are to look into every flaw, into every shortcoming in the Arab world. The Arab leaders have been keen during the Kuwait summit to look into this particular issue. It's not only enough to diagnose and to say that we have intra-Arab differences and disputes now, but there is a high need to stop this gap and this from widening even further and to curb the aggravation of these differences, and this requires common grounds and common executive steps. I believe that through the meetings and through the communications and the contacts that have been undertaken during the last 3 days will have positive impacts on these relations. Kuwait is now chairing the GCC as it chaired the summit. There are responsibilities to be assumed by the chairman, by the chairing of these bodies, and one of these responsibilities is to mend fences between all disputed parties. Allow me to add something to what His Excellency has mentioned. We cannot expect that any difference anywhere around the world, we cannot expect them to end on one day or in a simple meeting. We need to hail the strenuous efforts and the strenuous efforts that have been deployed by His Highness the Emir and all the leaders and all the officials who were here. I believe that tangible results will be felt soon, not today or tomorrow. Regarding the Syrian seat, I will reread to you one sentence to you, because you are talking about the next year, about the next summit, inviting the officials of the National Syrian Council to participate, to attend the sessions of the League of Arab States Summit in next year. Kindly ask separate questions. Kindly introduce yourselves. Antoine Naufal. In Kuwait Declaration, we see commending of the efforts deployed by the Lebanese armed forces and the Lebanese security forces. We are all aware of the Saudi assistance, and my question is, will there be other assistance of any type that would couple this assistance? Undoubtedly, the Lebanese issue is a main concern for many countries, and we've discussed the need to reinforce and build the capacities of the Lebanese armed forces and the Lebanese security forces. There is an imminent meeting to be held in Rome and in other countries to discuss the Lebanese issue. It goes without saying that we will attend for Lebanese concerns and Lebanese issues. We have we have dedicated a special clause in the declaration for assisting the Lebanese armed forces because Lebanon is highly important, and His Highness the custodian of the two holy shrines have graciously pledged an assistance to Lebanon with amounting to $3 billion. We in the Arab world, we are all concerned and keen on having Lebanon enjoying peace, enjoying security and stability. As His Excellency mentioned, an imminent meeting is to be held in Rome. Earlier this month, on March 5, a meeting was held in France under the patronage of His French President François Hollande, and all members participating to that conference pledged to help Lebanon and assist Lebanon. So there is an international consensus on the need to help Lebanon.
Question addressed to His Highness the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Regarding the summit, you call the Security Council to shoulder its responsibilities towards the freeze in Syrian negotiations in Geneva. Now, as Kuwait is heading the 25th ordinary sessions, what are the efforts that you will exert in order to push forward towards the negotiations? So a question addressed to the Secretary General. Why did you have a decision pertaining to the Syrian coalition separately from the Kuwait declaration? And what happened in Doha summit last year? We would like to understand. Thank you. Regarding calling the Security Council to shoulder its responsibilities, as the Secretary General, this file was submitted to the Security Council in January 2012, and the Security Council is following the situation in Syria. And the special envoy of the United Nations and the League of Arab States, Lakhdar Ibrahimi, is working on this field. Now we are enhancing and fostering the resolution 2139 pertaining to Syria issued in February, and the Secretary General of the United Nations will file a report in 1 month. And we also have an article in the resolution which includes that we have many steps that should be taken by the Security Council in case all the content of that resolution is not respected. The report of the Secretary General will be discussed soon in the Security Council. However, the main content focuses on the continuous use of armed forces of explosive barrels by the regime. And we are also witnessing violations of the previous agreements. We call the Security Council to focus and to work on the report of the Secretary General and to hold those people responsible and accountable of all their actions, and to study further steps that will help us to establish safe corridors for providing humanitarian assistance for the Syrian people. And we also have a potential to resume the work of the United Nations League Arab States Special Envoy to solve the Syrian crisis. Thank you, Your Excellency. For the second time, I kindly ask you to present yourselves, your name and your media channel. The floor is yours. Thank you. The question about the Doha summit. When you read this declaration, you discover that the second paragraph reaffirms the Doha resolution number X dated 26 March, as well as the ministerial summit. So this resolution is based on the Doha statement, which provided the seat to the Syrian coalition. Thank you, Your Excellency. The floor is yours from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Abdullah Makkah, CEO of Gulf and representative of Saudi Bilad newspaper. Question to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Your Highness, Arab solidarity is always achieving stability in all Arab nations and the entire world. And stability is also essential for development and for tackling all our economic problems as well as political and many other problems. Security should also be gained priority. During or based on the Kuwait Declaration, how can you define all these elements that I just mentioned in my question? Undoubtedly, security is the cornerstone for all issues, but security should not be tackled at all levels. Of course, it is essential, but His Highness the Emir mentioned in his opening speech about his concerns regarding all the differences that we are facing today. And His Highness also mentioned in his speech that we ought to consider that we have some issues through which we can reach a great component of society, which is youth. During the economic summit held in Kuwait, the first economic summit, we focused and targeted the youth. We focused on establishing a fund to support SMEs for the past 3 years. During that period, many programs were established thanks to that program and thanks to that fund. In fact, this stresses and highlights the opportunities that brings together all the potentials and resources in our world. And His Excellency and His Highness the Emir also mentioned that the space of agreement is bigger than the space of disagreement. We ought to focus on these issues, of course. We have a successful Arab economic summit held in Riyadh and then in Sharm el-Sheikh, and it is focusing on the youth. It is aiming to provide support for all their initiatives and their creative measures and innovations in order to alleviate the accumulations and negative repercussions in all our relations. When we work towards achieving those mechanisms and when we provide common grounds, we can lay the foundations for better future steps. And we hope that in the future, the circumstances will be better in translating the slogan of the title, Solidarity Summit for a Better Future. Thank you. The floor is yours. Hamad Harbi, Reuters, Arabic Department. Question about Syria. But before my question, I would like to salute the role played by Kuwait. In fact, Kuwait hosted high-level conferences recently, and this reaffirms that the small state of Kuwait in the north of the Arabian Gulf is committed towards humanitarian issues. The question is the following. Regarding the letter addressed by President Putin to the Arab Summit pertaining to opening channels between the opposition and the regime, the question is the following. The declaration talked about the Syrian regime, but it did not mention anything about the armed groups. Despite that, the speeches of most of the heads of delegations mention terrorist armed groups, and unfortunately these armed groups have Arab support, whether through institutions or any other source, but it is clear that we have Arab support for armed groups. Why did the statement lagged behind in mentioning this idea? Thank you. The question is addressed to the Secretary General. First, when we talk about the Syrian plight or the Syrian disaster, we ought to start from the beginning. The Syrian crisis started with protests in Daraa in mid-March 2011. Individuals were demanding everything they were demanding, they had expectations similar to Egypt, Tunisia, and other countries. But they were faced with violence, and this is agreed upon. Things evolved, things were not solved. things were not solved according to the demands of the League of Arab States during the first year of the crisis. I went to Damascus. However, if they had listened to the League of Arab States, we would have seen a peaceful solution. However, in our contemporary world, we have, for example, similar problems in Afghanistan, in Bosnia, and many people or groups are going to those places to fight. So we need to solve the cause and the root of this problem. And this is why the declaration is talking about a political solution and not a military solution. When we say political solution, that means that we are condemning violence, and I believe that that is the genuine and right balance. Your Highness the Minister, the Syrian crisis was not, or is not only pertaining to destroying Syria. We are also talking about a spillover across the borders towards the entire region, which we are already facing. We are seeing armed groups and funding, financial funding, and everything that we warned about is happening today. So today we need to focus on a peaceful solution in order to avoid more bloodshed and more negative repercussions, such as the things happening in the region. I ask you to summarize your questions, please, and introduce yourselves. Huda Hosseini, Sharq al-Awsat. His Excellency, the Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the industrial summit for the G8 was very beneficial to study essential issues just like the Syrian crisis or the Syrian war and the Iranian nuclear dossier. This might be influenced based on the relations between Ukraine and Russia, between Russia and the United States, based on the Ukrainian conflict. The U.S.-Russian tension might have led to less tensions in Syria, and now you are talking about political solution. Can the Ukrainian crisis influence the Syrian crisis? Are you contacting Russia in this regard? Thank you. We do not have any alternative other than the peaceful solution. The only solution will be a peaceful and political solution. We know that what happened in Ukraine is linked to the two sponsors of the Geneva and the path of the negotiations in Syria. However, we need to focus on the resolution of the United Nations Security Council, the two patrons of the Geneva Conference with the rest of the Security Council. They should agree anonymously to provide safe channels and safe corridors for humanitarian assistance and to pave the road for a political solution. We need to adopt all the content of the United Nations resolution. The Secretary General of the United Nations will submit a report, and we need to follow up all the steps taken by the Security Council in this regard. Of course, the Ukrainian crisis affected the entire world. However, now we need to focus and say that there is no alternative other than the political solution. Thank you, Your Highness, Sheikh, Deputy Prime Minister, and thank you, Secretary General. The time is up. Thank you for your presence.